Welcome to Talks with Tracy, with certified hypnotherapist, life coach, and licensed mental health professional, Tracy Claremont. Tracy will share her healing journey and explore the many meaningful alternative healing methods in our world today that will support you in doing your own deepest emotional healing. So please welcome the host of Talks with Tracy, Tracy Claremont. Let the suffering end and the healing begin.
Hello and welcome to Talks with Tracy. I'm your host, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you so much for joining me today, and thank you to Bold Brave Television for giving me this beautiful opportunity. So I have been talking a lot lately about narcissism and narcissistic abuse. In fact, for the past few weeks, the past 4 episodes have been a series on narcissism and narcissistic abuse that I partnered with the beautiful and amazing Ash Benavides to do. She is my resident expert on narcissism by way of having a whole lifetime of experience with it, and also educating herself on it and doing the healing around it. So if you haven't seen the past 4 episodes of that, I encourage you to do so. Today I'm going to hit some points that Ash and I didn't quite get to, and also just reemphasize a few things that we did get to. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about narcissism and narcissistic abuse today. So I wanted to start by talking about why it's so dang hard to get out of these relationships with narcissistic people. You know, it sounds simple enough. If you're unhappy in a relationship, if you're miserable, if you're being devalued, mistreated, you just leave, right? You just get out. Well, it's not quite that simple. It's not that easy. That's a very complex situation, actually. So I really just want to answer that question. I do understand that not all people choose to get out of these relationships, and that's okay too. We'll talk about that a little later as well. But let's just start by asking, why is it so hard to leave these relationships? So first off, it's all the beautiful qualities about you, your kindness, your caring ways, your ability to love deeply, your ability to commit to relationship that really attracts a narcissistic person to you. You know, these are the qualities that make you vulnerable, and they're beautiful qualities, you know, but they do kind of paint a target on your back for these kind of relationships. So, you know, these qualities, they make it easy for a narcissistic person to manipulate you into this kind of twisted psychological servitude that happens in these kind of relationships. So people like you and I, we are sought after by narcissistic people. Like, we're the cream of the crop, right? We're their first choice, and it's such a slippery slope because, you know, we slip so quickly into what I just referred to as psychological servitude, in which you set aside your own needs and wants and desires and aspirations for someone else. And all of these things that are about us, that goes straight out the door, and our worlds become about them. Before we know it, you know, we're caught up in this this cycle of continually anticipating the needs of the narcissistic person while continually neglecting our own needs. So before I go any further, I just want to do a quick reminder of the fact that, and what I have said about narcissistic personality traits. These are a grouping of personality traits and behaviors that constitute a narcissistic personality. So a person can have mild narcissistic traits all the way up to severe narcissistic traits. The person with mild narcissistic traits, you know, they might be superficial, emotionally immature, self-centered, kind of annoying people. And then all the way up to the severe end, where these are quite dangerous people. These are sadistic people. These are exploitative people. So, you know, most people with narcissistic traits, they fall in the mid-range. And that's the people that I'll be talking about today. Of course, I'll be generalizing, and also it's important to remember that the farther down on that scale, of severity, the more maladaptive the behaviors and the traits are, the harder they are to change. So those are just some things to remember. Another thing to remember about narcissistic people is that they're always fighting against their own shame. So they're continually monitoring their self-esteem. And this is why they require so much attention and admiration and recognition. They'll go so far to this end as to distort reality, which makes it very confusing for people who are in relationship with them. When the reality is being distorted, it just gets very confusing and chaotic and crazy making. And it's all for the purpose of so the narcissist supporting their self-image. So when you're in relationship with them, you become their primary source, their primary means of achieving that goal. Most people know the term narcissistic supply. It's thrown out there a lot nowadays. So, well, that's exactly what you become, the narcissist's supply for maintaining their self-esteem. Now, in fact, you even become like a weapon against their shame. They need you. They need you to validate them, to praise them, to make them look good. And you get caught up in this process. So now, one of the hard truths about this whole thing, and there's several hard truths, I'll get to some more in the next segment, but one of the hard truths is that, they don't desire you for who you are. They desire you for what you have to offer them. And that just, it makes me sad. Everybody wants to be valued and desired for who they are. Their intentions, they're self-centered, they're self-serving. And that they actually use relationship as a tool to regulate their self-esteem. So once they identify you as prime supply, then they engage this arsenal of tactics to hook you in and keep you hooked. And that this is where it gets so complicated and confusing. So what are some of those tactics that they deploy to get you hooked? Well, we've talked about some already on the previous shows, but it usually starts with some form of love bombing. This is where they make you feel so special, like you are the most important person in their entire world, and you have this experience where you're always together and you're doing fun things, and you're sharing thoughts and feelings, and you're laughing and you're having fun, you're enjoying, and it feels really good. They may be already talking about this future with you, being together forever. Things kind of happen fast. And in this stage, they appear to have the ability to be vulnerable even. They may talk about their childhood. They may appear to be hurt by it. Maybe they are hurt by it. They may talk about past relationships. And, if you're in that situation and they are talking about past relationships, you might want to listen carefully to see if there's any accountability taken for that past relationship falling apart, or if it's all blaming the other person and, presenting yourself as a victim. Those are all some red flags, some things to watch for. But these things all happen in the initial stages, and you just kind of get swept off your feet. Of course, the problem with this is that it's all disingenuous, right? It's not real. It's kind of like a game they're playing. It's a mask that you're wearing for the purpose of hooking you in to lock in their supply. So this stage of the game, it can last a long time. It can be short-lived. It all depends on the people. But once you get hooked and they can sense that you are committed, then the narcissistic relationship cycle begins. And that's idealizing, devaluing, discarding, and it gets super confusing and super toxic. So once that mask comes on, you begin to see a different version of the person that you have fallen for. That they have traits that, that are not pleasant, that rise to the surface. Some of these traits are a lack of empathy for others, especially a lack of empathy for their partners. And, it's super confusing because here this person was all about you. That, you were the best thing that ever happened to them, and they wanted to spend their life, with you, and you feel like, wow, this is going to be a love relationship for life. And then suddenly that same person seems to not even care about your feelings. And worse yet, they seem to not, or they don't, not seem to, but they don't care about how they make you feel. So it's very confusing how they can switch from one person to another. But it's important to remember, this is their true selves. So have you ever heard the phrase, they've shown you who they are, believe them? This is one of my sister Hiccup's favorite phrases, and it's one of mine too. So it's so true. And instead of believing who they are showing us that they are, we want to instead like hang on to this hope that the other person that we knew in the beginning will return. So I mean, who we don't want to accept that this other person who has come to the surface is who they truly are. Most often we don't give up hope. We don't accept that they're showing their true selves until we have really gone through so much hurt and pain and have come to a place where we just can't take it anymore. So there's really good reasons for this. It's not because we're weak or stupid or to blame, none of those things, although we will certainly be made to feel all of those things. Narcissistic people, they're master manipulators. They're experts at flipping the script, and they use these tactics like gaslighting, distorting reality. They make you feel that you're the one at fault, like there's something wrong with you. They're master guilt trippers. They're chronic victims, and all of those things keep us hooked in these relationships. Like, I would say trapped in these relationships, psychologically trapped. So what happens, when you call a narcissistic person out on their actions when they've hurt you? They become extremely reactive because this ignites their shame, and they don't want to go there. It goes against all these efforts to maintain their high self-esteem. So, it exposes the truth about them, and this is unacceptable to them. They're extremely reactive to this. It's confusing for the non-narcissistic person because it's confusing to be with somebody who refuses to be accountable for their own behavior. It's very unhealthy, so with these tactics, they immediately deflect away that shame and they just place it all on you, and they use all their tactics and to kind of torture you in doing that. It's crazy making, and it makes you feel like you really are at fault. You really start to believe that you actually did something wrong, and you start apologizing. Your people-pleasing behaviors kick in, and you apologize for things that you are not responsible for. It's really hard to sit with that feeling that there's something wrong with you. It chips away at your self-confidence and your self-worth, and it turns, it really weakens you psychologically. So, the narcissist has a chronic need to justify their own bad behavior. And they'll do this until you believe that you're responsible for that bad behavior. It's crazy making, and it is really this process of distorting reality. So, maybe you just simply get so emotionally exhausted that you can't really fight it anymore, and you just start to take the blame and take responsibility because it's easier than confronting them and trying to get them to do that. They're thin-skinned, and if you do hold them accountable, they take it as criticism, and they're likely to punish you in some way. Maybe it's silent treatments for days. Maybe it's harsh words and disapproving looks, and that are devaluing messages to you. Maybe it's in rage. Maybe it's anger outbursts. Maybe it's discarding you, throwing you away. So what about the phrase, you go along to get along? I understand that. This speaks to the defeated spirit quality of it. It's exhausting, being in a relationship that's so confusing and so psychologically painful. It's really hard. So no, you are not weak. You are not stupid. You are none of those things that you've actually been told that you are by the narcissistic person. You are not the problem. The only problem is that you are kind and compassionate, and you love deeply, and you commit in relationship and in healthy relationships. Those are all good things. Those are all strengths and beautiful qualities. But they're not a problem. But they do present problems for us when we find ourselves in these kind of relationships. So we're going to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, I'll be talking more about this psychological servitude, and I will, going into greater detail about that. So please stay tuned. You are watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television. We will be right back.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you all for joining me once again. Before the break, I was talking about relationship dynamics that keep us feeling trapped in relationships with narcissistic people. It's just not as easy as I'm unhappy, I'm going to leave. It's much more complicated and much more complex than that. We get caught up in what I call psychological servitude in these relationships, and it's so very difficult to break free. So it's important to note that everybody is vulnerable to narcissistic relationships. Yes, there are factors that make some more vulnerable, more susceptible to them, like coming from a narcissistic family and not having awareness that that's not normal and healthy, or also just being very kind and loving and believing in the best of people. That also kind of paints a target on our back. These are all things that make us more vulnerable, but anybody and everybody is vulnerable to these types of relationships. Now, so these podcasts are really meant to raise awareness and educate people on these kind of relationships and really get people thinking about their own situations. Does it resonate with you? Is this familiar to you? How are you treated in relationship, and is it okay? Because we want to bring about and inspire healing and living, the healthiest, most functional, beautiful life possible. So these are relationships where you are chronically doubted and silenced. You're told you're wrong all the time. You're told that you're asking for that things you're asking for are excessive, even when you're asking for the bare minimum. You're told that you're selfish. You're made to feel selfish. You lose trust in your own instincts and judgment. I'd go as far as to say it's like a kind of brainwashing even. And I've been there. I understand it. I have been completely caught up in my past in rationalizing and justifying unacceptable behaviors. It's no wonder that people get trapped in these relationships. Now, by contrast, healthy relationships involve having empathy for your partner and listening, being present, accepting the other person's feelings, being open to sharing feelings. That communication, being accountable, those are all healthy relationships. Now, everyone has their less than graceful days and less than graceful moments, right? So no relationship is perfect. You'll have those moments where you're unkind, or you get angry, or you say something that you wish you hadn't. You hurt your partner in some ways. But in healthy relationships, the person acknowledges that they've been hurtful and they attempt to make amends. They attempt to change their behavior. They apologize and they follow that apology with action. And all of that rebuilds trust. That's in a healthy relationship. So narcissistic people, they stand strong in their narcissistic traits. They wear their behaviors like a suit of armor for their insecurities, a suit of armor that protects against their shame being ignited. So they don't budge and they lack insight. So they really don't see anything wrong with their behavior. So when you project outward, you place the blame on other people and you find no fault in yourself. So you really have nothing to change because you've done nothing wrong. So, a fish doesn't know it's in water. It just is, right? So now until I experienced these types of relationships, I didn't even know that narcissism was a thing. Even when I was getting my education, my college education, my training in mental health, granted this was many years ago, but I don't remember learning about narcissism and narcissistic relationship cycles. Today, of course, it's a much hotter topic, and I understand that, but I really wasn't aware of it. And most often people don't become aware of it and become educated on it until they've been really hurt by it, which was, my situation. I think I mentioned I've experienced narcissistic people in a number of ways, in friendships, in workplace environments, certainly, and in romantic relationships. So I am no longer in these kind of relationships. I have done the work on myself, and I've educated myself, and I've learned a lot of hard truths about this. Even preparing for this podcast, things still came together, were still coming together for me, and I was still learning some of these hard truths. And one of the hard truths that I mentioned earlier is that narcissistic people, partners, they don't desire you for who you are. They desire you for what you have to offer them. And that is just a really hard truth because it's so sad. It hurts my heart to even say that, because everyone wants to be loved and accepted for who they are, right? Not what they have to offer people. So it's a hard truth. Another hard truth is that you really don't mean anything to them. You simply are a means to an end. Again, if you rise up against them and you're going to leave them, they'll likely put up resistance because they want to maintain their narcissistic supply. They may appear hurt, but what are they hurt about? Is it because that they don't want to lose you, or because they don't want to lose what you bring to the table? Is the pain on their face, is it real? Or is it a strategy to manipulate you into staying with them? Ugh, it's so yucky. Another hard truth is that they don't even think about you unless they need something from you, or they're mad at you. That you're not present in their mind. You're a tool to be used, to protect their self-esteem. So again, it's so ugly, and it's so unhealthy. And I'm not part of these relationships, but it still hurts me to even think about these things in relationship. So two other things two other hard truths I want to mention. First off, these are no-win situations. When you're always to blame, when you're always the problem, and they don't take accountability for any of their part, then you are in no-win arguments all the time. And, it's exhausting. And the other thing is, it's not going to change. You devote your life to anticipating the narcissistic person's needs and trying to keep them happy. And so they set the bar for their happiness really high, and you work and you work and you work and you work to try to reach that bar. And every time you feel like you're getting close, that bar gets raised and there's more expected from you. So it's a futile effort. It's pointless to try to make somebody who is to please somebody who is unpleasable. They'll always be asking for more from you. But we keep trying. We just keep trying because we feel like we're failing in some way, because we're made to feel that way. We're made to feel that we are responsible for someone else's happiness. And that's never the truth. So why do we subject ourselves to this? Well, for lots of reasons that I've been talking about. Other reasons are that we're kind of taught in society to find a way to get along, to be forgiving. We're taught that if there's a problem, then we likely are part of the problem and we need to change something. We need to do better. We probably should be teaching in high schools across the nation. We should be teaching in freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, teaching about relationship, teaching about recognizing red flags, what is acceptable in relationship, what is not, how to value ourselves so that we don't allow ourselves to be mistreated. That should be like a required course in high schools throughout our nation. It would have a big impact on our society. Of course, that's not the case, but all right, other reasons we subject ourselves to this. Well, not every day is horrible. Not every day is bad. I've never met with a client who has said, every single day in my marriage or my relationship has been absolutely horrible. There's enough good days to keep us hanging in there and hopeful. Now, the problem with this is that you shouldn't have to exist on crumbs. You shouldn't be having to exist on throwing a nugget of kindness, being thrown a nugget of kindness here and there. That's just not okay. It's like a starvation diet, and you shouldn't have to live in that kind of circumstances. In healthier relationships, you have the good days outweigh the bad days. And the bad days are followed by genuine repair. Every relationship is a process of rupture and repair. In healthy relationships, when there is a rupture, it is followed by meaningful, genuine repair. It's followed by accountability. It's followed by apology. It's followed by action to change the behavior so it doesn't happen again. And that builds trust. That is a healthy relationship. So a narcissistic partner doesn't do that. When they've been hurtful, it's usually followed by devaluing, gaslighting, that blaming the other partner behavior. So you can find yourself apologizing for the most ridiculous of things. These kind of cycles, they really activate our people-pleasing behaviors, the people-pleasing behaviors in the non-narcissistic person. They just light those behaviors on fire. And pretty soon when you're, in a gaslight situation or some kind of alleged betrayal to the narcissistic person, you can find yourself completely confused and apologizing for the most ridiculous of things. So I'll give you a little example from my own life of how ridiculous these things can be. So after my first marriage, I got a divorce. I immediately jumped into another relationship. I was vulnerable. I believed in the good of people. I still do. And I was also on the rebound, right? I didn't give myself any time to do any healing. I just jumped right into the next relationship. And with that person, then they had some narcissistic traits that I ignored. But I found myself one day in this just feeling horrible, like I betrayed him in some way. And this is what he was upset about. So out of the blue, he is livid angry with me because he said, knowing me and how I am, had my first husband died during our marriage, I would have chosen to bury him in the Claremont family burial plot in our local cemetery. And he was so angry with me at the thought of me choosing to bury my ex-husband in the family plot and then me lie there one day next to my ex-husband for eternity. And he was like, I know you, Tracy, you would have done that. And I was like, what? Oh my gosh, I'm in so much trouble for a hypothetical betrayal. And I was just kind of being browbeat by, and it was gaslighting. I didn't recognize it as that, but it was gaslighting. And pretty soon I am crying. I am apologizing. I'm like, I am so sorry. But even if he died today, he's my ex-husband. I wouldn't bury him there. So it's never going to happen. But yeah, maybe I would have. I don't know. I'm so sorry for that. And I was apologizing and crying and feeling like there was something wrong with me and feeling like I had just done this horrible, horrific betrayal to him. So, like, you see these like WTF lines right here? Yeah, they have been hard earned through numerous experiences like this. Numerous experiences where I'm like, what? What? How? I don't understand how I betrayed you, but apparently I have, and I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'll try harder. I'll do more. I will, I'll never betray you again. I hadn't even betrayed him. So yeah, these WTF lines right here in my forehead, hard-earned lines, it's going to take a lot of Botox to get those WTF lines out of my forehead. So please, don't do that to yourself. Don't subject yourself to that. I went on for a long time, in relationships like that. So, yeah, maybe had I had better awareness of what was going on, I could have recognized red flags and I could have dipped out early. But not the case. Anyway, so that's just an example from my own life. So it's time to take a brief commercial break. When we come back, I'll be talking about how you might escape these situations. So please stay tuned for that. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television. We'll be right back.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
Like, it was almost instant, like I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of The Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on The Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy with me, Tracy Claremont, coming to you live on the Bold Brave Television Network. I'm talking today about narcissistic relationships and narcissistic abuse in relationships. I'm just kind of wrapping things up for a 4-part series that I did in the last previous 4 episodes with Ash Benavides, kind of hitting some points that we didn't get to and driving some points home. And I've been talking about what keeps us in these relationships, and now I'd like to bring it around to the question of, will you stay or will you go? The choice is yours, of course. No judgment here either way. I just kind of want to tease it out a bit. So, of course, I do understand why people stay in these relationships, but here on Talks with Tracy, I always want to encourage true, deep emotional healing, that kind of healing that brings an end to your suffering. And I will say that staying in these kind of relationships is not conducive to putting an end to suffering. Staying is not conducive to reaching a place of fulfillment and honoring your authentic self. Staying in these kind of relationships, it's not a means of realizing your greatest potential and reaching a place of joy and contentment. So, I'm going to spend some time talking about how you might make your escape. So, this past weekend, I was at my daughter's rodeo over in Idaho, and I was sitting there with my sister Martha and our friend Jessica and our kids. And our kids, they were wanting to go to an escape room that evening. So Jessica, she was trying to make reservations for a group of people to go to the escape room. And when she was doing that, she asked Martha, do you want to go? And Martha said, no, thank you. My entire life is an escape room. And oh my God, I thought that was the funniest thing. I was laughing so hard, and I'm sure I believe she was joking, being sarcastic, but I loved the analogy, and it made me think of using that analogy with what I'm talking about today with narcissistic relationships. That narcissistic relationships, when you're in them, you can feel like you're in one giant escape room experience, right? You're feeling trapped. You're trying to use your wit to figure out a way out before it's too late. So I would say to people out there, if that resonates with you, if you do feel like your life is one giant escape room, then it's probably time to go deep and make some changes in your life so that you can experience some freedom and some greater joy in your life. But I love that analogy. She just cracked me up. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so what about the question, is it unreasonable to be hopeful? Is it foolish to wait for them to change back to the person that paid you all that attention and was kind to you in the beginning? Well, I would never use the word foolish because that's way too judgmental for me. But I will say that it is a futile effort. It's no easier to change a narcissistic person's personality traits than it is to change the weather. That you can't change them. A change comes from within ourselves. I can't change you. You can't change me. It has to come from within. And when a person doesn't recognize a problem, then there's no reason to change. And remember, the more maladaptive on that scale of severity, the more maladaptive and severe the behavior traits personality traits and behaviors are, the harder it is to change them. So perhaps a better course of action is radical acceptance. Now, radical acceptance means that you accept that it is what it is and it's not going to change. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to leave the relationship if you don't want to or you feel like you can't. There's, many people stay in these relationships for years and years and years for valid reasons. They stay because they have children and they don't want to disrupt the family. They stay because they're afraid of change. They stay because they don't want to be the bad guy. They don't want to hurt people. They don't want people to be mad at them, and if you do choose to leave a relationship like this, you can expect people to be mad at you, because the narcissistic person, they distort the truth and they play the victim, right? So they will tell anybody who's willing to listen to them their version of the truth and what happened. And I can guarantee you there will be no accountability on their part. You will be the problem, and you will be the person to blame, and you will be selfish in your actions and behaviors. So yeah, people will look down on you. People will leave you. People will blame you. You have to be willing to accept that. But please don't stay because you think you can change them. You can't, and their behaviors won't change. Often the maltreatment, it just intensifies with time, and it can even become dangerous. So you really have to look out for yourself. Years ago, I was working with a woman who was in a relationship with a narcissistic abuser, and she told me that she believed in manifesting, which is great. I do too. I'm a big manifester. But what she wanted to manifest was a change in her narcissistic husband's personality. And, I told her, it's okay to try to manifest anything. But I do wonder if it's fair to try to manifest change in your partner's personality. This guy, he was a successful businessman, and he probably used some of those narcissistic traits to become successful in his business. And he wasn't distressed by his actions and his behaviors. She was. He was fine with himself. He thought he was A-okay. So was it fair for her to try to manifest a change in him? Manifest the mean out of him and bring in the kindness? Probably not. Is it fair for us to expect change in a person who doesn't have a problem with themselves? Probably not. So is it realistic to expect this? I would say no. And that brings me all the way back to radical acceptance. It is what it is. It's not going to change. Will you stay or will you go? The choice is yours, regardless of whether or not you stay or whether or not you go. It is crucial to recognize the tactics that a narcissist uses in relationship, whether it's romantic relationship, friendship, family relationship. It's crucial that you recognize their tactics, and to recognize what these tactics are, what they aim to do, what they mean to achieve. And as you gain awareness of what they are and what they mean to achieve, you can become highly skilled at recognizing when they're deploying their tactics against you. And that can help you to become less reactive to them. So, in this way, you can begin to prioritize your own well-being. And that's so important. So educate yourself on narcissism. Is so very helpful to have a clear understanding of what narcissism is, what it looks like, how a narcissistic person behaves in relationship. And it's even helpful to understand where these personality traits come from. It's helpful to know that these are personality traits that develop through childhood experiences, and that's how they come. These experiences create traits of behaviors and personalities, and it's helpful to know that because you're always blamed for everything. So you need to know that you're not to blame for this. You didn't create the situation, and you are certainly not to blame for someone else's personality. So work on building your self-esteem. It's not okay for anyone to belittle and devalue you. It's not okay for anyone to steal your autonomy, to steal your independence. You matter. You're worthy of kindness, respect, and love. You're certainly enough. It's not okay for somebody to make you feel like there's something inherently wrong with you and that you're not enough or that you're selfish. None of that is okay. You deserve better. So now as you build your self-esteem, you'll be better able to speak up for yourself and maintain clear boundaries. Practice relaxation techniques. This is so important to remain calm and in control of yourself. Even in the face of a narcissistic attack, remaining calm and in control of yourself is a great way to take back your power, because those narcissistic tactics are meant to dysregulate you. They're meant to put you in this state of chaos and confusion and trigger guilt and remorse and sorrow, fear and anger, all of those things. So if you can remain calm in your body and in your mind, that is a way of taking back your power. It's so important for you to focus on your own healing. Radically accept that you will not be supported in this healing by the narcissistic partner or family member. Anything that gives you strength will be devalued. Narcissistic people, they fear abandonment. So the last thing they want is you to regain your strength and your confidence. That goes against their agenda. So maintain strong boundaries. If your narcissistic person in your life appears heartbroken when you maintain strong boundaries, when you say no, when you become non-reactive, when you remain calm, when you stop taking the blame, just remember they're not heartbroken over the loss of you. They're heartbroken over the loss of their narcissistic supply. And if you can understand that and have that radical acceptance, it will help you to stop taking your bucket to an empty well. Stop taking your bucket to an empty well. So if you're not able to move away from the narcissistic person physically, then start moving away psychologically. Engage in tiny acts of rebellion. This can help gain you strength. And what I mean by that is just quietly do things for yourself. Quietly pursue your dreams and aspirations without telling your partner what they are. They will not support you. They won't do that. In fact, they'll perceive it as a threat, and they'll be reactive to it. So, activating your dreams, it's a part of pursuing your authentic self and moving towards that health and well-being. So, these are all important things to do. Just start chipping away at that escape tunnel. Chip away little by little until you have your tunnel to escape. Start figuring a way out of that escape room, and do these things without asking permission, without telling them, without expecting anything from them. So these are all ways to move away from the relationship psychologically until you can move away physically. So there's no reason to allow yourself to be hurt in the name of love. None. And allowing yourself to be hurt in the name of love, that's not love. That's not love for your partner. It's not love for your family member. It's not love for yourself. So, maybe go to therapy, have some support like that. But start that process of moving away psychologically until you can move away physically. All right, so it's time to take a commercial break. That was a lot. Do a little self-care out there, please. I am going to do the same. I will return in a couple minutes. You're watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television. We'll be right back.
Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio. What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation.
Welcome back to Talks with Tracy, coming to you live on Bold Brave Television Network. Thank you all so much for joining me today. You know, I've been talking about narcissistic relationships and whatnot. I just talked about how you might make your way out, make your escape. So I hope that all of this has been helpful for you, and I hope that you've enjoyed this talk today, and that, again, you know, the whole intention of this is to raise awareness and get people thinking about the relationships they're in, the relationship cycles that they're in, so that they can really evaluate their own personal health, whether or not it is in friendship relationships, family relationships, workplace relationships, romantic relationships. You know, your health and well-being is so very important, and I just wish to empower people and making positive changes for their own health and well-being and happiness. So like I said before, I didn't even know that narcissism was a thing until I experienced multiple relationships of this kind firsthand. And even then, it took me so long to recognize the patterns and put an end to these kind of relationship experiences. So I'm absolutely not judging anybody for any reason. I'm just here to support and encourage you to focus on your own health and well-being, your own happiness. So now, if you're like me, you've spent a lifetime having compassion for other people. So now it's time to turn that compassion inward into yourself. Self-compassion, it's like kryptonite against a narcissistic person, right? You know, once you develop it, it lifts you up, it gives you strength, it renders a narcissistic person powerless. When you truly love yourself and value yourself and have compassion for yourself, it allows you to say, you know what? I won't be treated like this anymore. I deserve better. It's not okay. So, you know, coming out of a narcissistic relationship and doing the healing, it really is a process of letting go, a huge process of letting go. There's so many things that you'll need to let go of. You know, you're letting go of the internalized narratives that have been forced upon you about not being good enough, not mattering, about being selfish, all of these things. You have to let that go, and you're letting go of the hope that this relationship can change, that that person can change. You're letting go of the dream of a happy life with these people. And you're letting go of that twisted belief that the only way to be loved is to completely neglect your own needs, wants, and dreams. You're letting go of the hope that other people will see things for what they are and will support you. You have to let go of that as well. You know, there's so many distortions and assumptions and internalized narratives and beliefs and hopes that you'll need to let go of. But that's okay. You know, be fearless in that effort, and put yourself first and your own needs first. Prioritize yourself. You know, perhaps you can use the experience of being in narcissistic relationships as a catalyst to your own healing. You know, use it as like a springboard experience. Use it as an opportunity to dive deep inward into your emotional healing. You know, explore your childhood experiences. Develop awareness of your core beliefs about yourself. You know, explore those things that hold you back. Explore what causes you to make choices for yourself that are harmful. Do that exploring. Handle yourself with care at all times, of course. You know, you're not a bad person for choosing to save yourself. You know, you can, when you start to feel bad for the narcissistic person, just turn that compassion inward into yourself. Aim it towards yourself. Have that self-compassion, because you get to be happy too. So do some things like journaling, record keeping. Maybe have a calendar where you write incidences that have happened in the relationship there that are not okay, unacceptable. Write them down on a calendar. Be reminded of them. Save some text messages. Maybe take a picture of your face after you've endured 2 hours of gaslighting, and you're exhausted and you're defeated and you're crying and all of that, as a reminder of what you will no longer accept in relationship and in a partner. Just start to do things for yourself like that, because it's a slippery slope right back into that relationship if you don't remember what you no longer will accept in your relationship. So when you start feeling bad, just remember that self-preservation and self-protection are of the utmost importance. Okay, that these are just really important things to remember. Create time and space for yourself. Reflect on those things. Reflect on your learning. And these are all ways of keeping yourself focused and moving forward on your healing journey. Be fearless. Put yourself first. Do that for yourself. All right, so it's already time to be done with our show today. Next week, I will be having a guest on the show by the name of Katie Zieber. She's a certified rapid transformational therapist, which is a model of hypnotherapy that I'm also certified in. And she has been done a considerable amount of personal healing herself, and she's committed to helping others along their way on the healing journey. So she'll be joining me next week here on Talks with Tracy. So please join me for that. Until then, you've been watching Talks with Tracy on Bold Brave Television Network. I'll see you all next week.
This has been Talks with Tracy. Join us each week as Tracy and her guests will come together and realize that underneath it all, we are all the same and never alone. So join us each week and let Talks with Tracy be your safe place to land in your healing journey. Right here, Thursdays, 11 a.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.